Hi. Tonight we shall be talking about two books. Two books written on the same subject by two different authors. What are these books? Here we go. One of them is the very famous All Quiet on the Western Front, written by the German author Eric Maria Remarque. What about the other one? Who is the author of the other book? Let us see. And the topic is First World War. Let us see which is the book and who is the author of the other book. Here we go. The other book is Across the Black Waters, and the author is none other than Mulk Raj Anand, who is one of the pioneer Indian authors writing in English. Let us go a little bit into the history of both the books. Remarque, who was a soldier in the German Imperial Army and fought in the Second World War, had written All Quiet on the Western Front in the year 1927. It was based on his experiences of World War I trenches when he fought on behalf of the German army in Flanders and other parts of France. This book he has written in 1927, and it was his third novel. This was first published in a newspaper, and subsequently it was published in the form of a book in 1929. When did Mulk Raj Anand write Across the Black Waters? Across the Black Waters is a part of a trilogy written by Mulk Raj Anand. The first one is The Village, the second one is Across the Black Waters, and the third one is The Hammer and the Sickle. Writing of Across the Black Waters is 1939, and it was published in that year. This was also about the World War I, and this was written about the Sepoys of the British Indian Army who participated in that war. Let us go a little more into the books and see what we get. All Quiet on the Western Front became an immediate bestseller, and it was translated in 22 languages all across the world and was made in the year 1930 into a Hollywood film. Across the Black Waters, written in 1939, was actually translated into 11 European languages. What do we get in both the books? Remarque's book starts off drastically after the platoon comes back from the trenches, and the main protagonist of this book is one Paul Baumer, who is around 19, and he has volunteered for the German Imperial Army 3 months before his actual time to be called up, along with his school friends, after he has received a lecture from one of his college teachers. There were 4 or 5 of them who joined the army, and after the basic training they are split up into different platoons, and Paul Baumer along with 2 of his other friends come into a platoon which comprises of young people in the age group of 19, 20, like that, from different walks of life. Like somebody is a grave digger, somebody is a locksmith, etc. And their leader is a 40-year-old old soldier named of Stanislas Kaczynski. What do we get in Across the Black Waters? Across the Black Waters, the main protagonist is one Lal Singh. He is of the 69 Dogra regiment, 2nd Company of the 69th Dogra Regiment, and he is also around 20 years old. He is a sepoy. How he has come into the Indian Army? He had some issues in his village with the village moneylender and the zamindar, and to run away from the difficulties at home, Lal Singh has joined the army, and after his initial training, he and his other friends have been sent to Marseilles to take part in the First World War, to fight the war on behalf of the British Indian Army. So we get two books of two different armies fighting in two opposing sides across the trench, which was actually one of the most brutal wars in the history of mankind. Inhuman conditions in the trenches, casualties, huge casualties, people dying like flies, and what do we get? Eric Maria Remarque has written about the front, vivid description of the front as a living wild animal who is part of the hell. When the soldiers get the orders to go to the front, they are only trying to survive. They are only waiting for their survival at any cost. They don't know anything else, and after a few times in the front, all the finer emotions apparently go out of their minds. In case of Across the Black Waters, the soldiers come to a different land. They come from British India. They come from the place where caste system is prevalent, and that too is there in the army. Religion also plays a big part, because the British have divided the regiments into Sikhs, into Rajputs, into Dogras, into Punjabi Mohammedans, etc., etc. Food is also different. But all the Indians who are in the Indian Army have been ill-treated and to a certain extent segregated by the British, and even the ordinary Tommies, within brackets the ordinary soldiers, look down upon the Indian Sepoys. These people have joined the army not out of any love of their fatherland. Why they have joined the army? Because their small landholdings are not sufficient enough to sustain their extended families. In order to get some extra income, these people, they join the army, and now they have pushed to Vilayat, the land of the white people, to fight in a war which is not theirs. Whereas in Remarque's book, the people are the soldiers in the German side have been actually been told to fight, and they are also fighting for their fatherland. So when Remarque writes, he writes about his people, and when Mulk Raj Anand writes, he writes about the Indian Sepoys. Do they have any similarities? Do their experiences seem similar? Yes. Remarque's book, with the vividness of the front and the brutalities of the war, has got its human elements, human touches. We take a case when one of the schoolmates of Paul Baumer is injured in an accident and is dying in the hospital. This boy's name is Kemrick, and he is 19 years old. Although the other comrades have great sympathy towards Kemrick, one of the friends is just eyeing the shoes of Kemrick, because that was a very nice pair of shoes which the friend feels will fit him perfectly. And ultimately, before Kemrick dies, he tells Paul that please take these shoes and give it to the other person, so that he can use it. I don't need these shoes anymore because my legs have already been amputated. This shows the humanity aspect within the horrors of the war. We find a particular soldier by the name of Detring, who is a farmer. When there are injured horses, he takes the risk of his life, stands up and tries to shoot down the horse because the horse is suffering. What do we get in Across the Black Waters? Across the Black Waters, Lal Singh and his friends find that the French are, although they are white people, not as segregationist as the Britishers. They welcome the Indians with open arms, and the Indian army also is having nice experiences in France. However, they cannot avoid the front, and they cannot avoid the pettiness of the soldier life, which is already having divisions by way of religion, by way of caste, etc., etc. Lal Singh's mentors are also there. Lal Singh has a great mentor by the name of Uncle Kripu, then Daddy Dhannu, and who can forget the soft-spoken Havildar Lachman Singh, or he is called by Holdar. At the same time, there is pettiness. Subha Singh, whose father is an Indian officer, has directly got his son commissioned, and Subha Singh is although Subha Singh was a great friend of Lal Singh once upon a time, pulls off his ranks with his friends, erstwhile friends. What about the description of the front? Mulk Raj Anand's experience is not first hand. Mulk Raj Anand's father was a soldier, Lal Chand Anand. He was a soldier in the Dogra regiment, and most probably Mulk Raj Anand's experiences about the front has been passed on to him by his father. Going by what he writes, descriptions of the fronts are pretty vivid, but at the same time, while Remarque shows it as a demonish thing which ultimately swallows everybody, Mulk Raj Anand's description of the front is more human, more objective, and not as subjective as Remarque. There are human elements in both the books. In All Quiet on the Western Front, while doing a patrol duty, Paul Baumer has gone into a ditch in the no man's land where a French soldier also lands. In order to save himself, Paul Baumer stabs the French soldier and the French soldier dies. But before the French soldier dies, the way Paul takes care of him, brings him water, etc., and tries to share food, tries to ease his pain, shows that even though the trenches have been brutal, they have not been able to completely eradicate the humanity in the human beings. Across the Black Waters, there are instances of human touch, humanity. After the first raid in the trenches, when Lal Singh and his contingents come out, there is a bar in a small village where these people are billeted. Lal Singh and his friends, they are hesitating to get inside, but once they get inside, the French come and then they acknowledge the brave Indian soldiers, and after that these people also become friendly. So humanity is there everywhere. Great humanity scene is also given in All Quiet on the Western Front. In a military hospital where Paul is recapitulating after being wounded, a soldier who is already healed has a visit by his wife. While the other soldiers, wounded soldiers, stand guard, Johann Lewandowski makes love to his wife. This is another element of humanity. How do the authority treat the soldiers? In All Quiet, the Kaiser visits the army and then there is an inspection, whereas in Across the Black Waters, the Supreme Commander of the Indian forces also visits, speaks to the soldiers and tries to motivate them. The Padri also motivates Lal Singh and his colleagues in Across the Black Waters. In All Quiet on the Western Front, the young soldier's dilemma is also vividly discussed. The people who are already into some profession, people who are adults who have come into the army life, it appears that they have got a life of their own and then they can get back to their life after the war. Whereas the young soldiers who are just out of college and in the thresholds of life do not know anything other than their homes, and they don't have a life after the war. They know only the war. When Paul goes on leave, he cannot adjust to the life which he has left behind. So this is a thing which Remarque has been very vividly explaining, whereas in the case of Across the Black Waters, the problems of the Indian Sepoys fighting in a foreigner's war is more vivid. As we go through the book, we find both are great. Both are great, and the acknowledgement that both books are great is also there, because while All Quiet on the Western Front has been already acknowledged as one of the greatest anti-war books written after the First World War, Across the Black Waters was selected by the British Council to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the First World War, while they have not considered All Quiet on the Western Front. So what should one do? According to me, one should read both and see how the armies think, see the brutalities of war, and then come to their own conclusion. What I would say that maybe in their days, Paul Baumer and Lal Singh has faced each other in the trenches, both sides of the trenches, but at the end of the day, both are human. I would request all of you to read the books and then take your own conclusion which one is better. For me, both are equally good and both have different perspectives and both should be read. So having talked about two books which happen to be my favorites, I conclude for the day and we'll see next time. See you all.